Hi, and welcome to my channel where I love to do all types of DIYs, everything from home updating projects to budget-friendly DIY home decor. If these are things you're interested in, then I hope you will consider hitting that subscribe button and become part of my DIY family. I don't know if you guys remember or if you even watched, but if you did, in my Hobby Lobby haul, I had picked this wooden roundup. This is a 25-inch, and I said I knew exactly what I wanted to make with it, and that's what we're going to do today. And we're going to be turning this into a wall clock. And I paid, it was $19.99, and then I did get 40% off of it. So what is that, about $11? $11.99, something like that. And I picked up a clock kit from Amazon called DIY Clock. And I'll put a link for this in the description box below. But it comes with pretty much everything we're going to need. The hands, some very large hands, smaller hands. And then it's got the, I don't know what that is. I'm sure it has something to do with the clock mechanism. But then it's also got this little clock feature, and we will worry about putting all this on towards the end. So I just wanted to kind of show you that. And Kirkland's was my inspiration, but it was just way too expensive. And then I also saw one at Etsy, which was more expensive, but I liked it as well. And I just ended up combining the two looks. Okay, so first thing I need to do is get all my animal hair off of it, which they do tend to get a lot of hair everywhere. I'm just wiping it down with a microfiber rag. And I like the edges just as it is. So what I want to do is go ahead and put on a coat of linen white chalk paint. Okay, so about 4 coats later, I've got the desired effect that I'm looking for, and I am just kind of cleaning it up a little bit. I did go over it with a 400 grit in just some spots that were a little rougher than I wanted, or I might have had a little piece of the brush hair in the paint. So I just used this just to kind of correct those issues. Here's a little piece of hair right here. And it just kind of sands it up. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I have got a 18-inch ruler, and I am going to make sure I've got it centered. I left the tag on just so I know where is center. But I am going to push it all the way up and take a pencil, and I'm just going to give it some lines. Then I'm going to do that going all the way down and do the same thing. Okay, then I'm just going to measure and see how thick these are, which is 4 1/4, and I'm just going to measure up 4 1/4, mark spot, and measure up another 4 1/4, mark the spot, and draw my lines. Okay, now I am going to try to mix me up some paint that is as close to this brown as I can get. The truffle and the territorial beige is actually pretty close. And I'm just using a ruler to help keep my lines straight. And this is a metal ruler, so that paint wipes off very easily. going to dry that down. Okay. So I am going to take and sand over these lines. I'm just going to use a 220 grit. Okay, I'm going to take some white paint, kind of dry brush over that. See if I can't get this any better. Okay, I am happy with that. So we're going to let that dry down. And I've got some images that I've got to, well, I'm going to cut out some stencils on my Cricut machine. So I'm going to do that right now. Okay, so the next thing I am going to do is I'm going to find center, which I've already done. And then it's time to go ahead and drill a hole. And I'm going to use a 5/16. And I'm just going to drill a hole, but I want to protect my desk, so I'm just going to use a block, and I'm going to place that on the bottom. And then I'm just going to drill a hole. All right, and we got our hole there for our clock mechanism. That's a perfect fit. So it was a 5/16 drill bit. Now, when I put this in here, this little mechanism in here, I've got to have room to be able to put it on the wall. Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to work. I don't think that's long enough. I don't have any threads showing. Okay, so I'm going to have to do something different. All right, I am going to put this in here all the way. And I'm going to trace where it's sitting. I can just get me a block under it. Okay, so I am going to cut that out. And I've got a miter box saw here, but that apparently is going to be too big, maybe. All right, that's going to be perfect. So I started with a saw. If you've got one of those little handheld ones that is smaller than this, that would be more ideal, because you just want to make sure, like you can see here, I put some grooves in my spots where I didn't want to, but you just be very careful. You're not going to go all the way down, just enough to take off roughly 1/8 of an inch. Okay. I have this chisel. It's a 3/4, I guess that's an inches chisel, and just a hammer. And you're just going to, just kind of set it where you want, knock it, and it'll start scraping. See that? It'll just kind of start scraping the top part off. And it's really easy, a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. All right, so we've got our hole. All right, and I've got my numbers for the clock cut out on my Cricut. And I will make my project on the Cricut, I guess, shareable. So if you have Cricut access, then you can go in there and you should be able to find it. And in the description box, I will list the description number so you can find it easier. And you can, if you don't have a Cricut machine, you can always buy stencils of your own. The numerical numbers are 3 inches. So if you can find some 3-inch stencils, which I'm sure Hobby Lobby probably has them, or Michael's or Joann's, and maybe even Walmart, but we know how that can go. So like I said, they're 3 inches. So if you find stencils, you can use those just as easily. And I had cut mine out just so I can line up the easy way. And yes, I'm wasting a lot of stencil material by doing it this way. So you can always just, cut them out like I did here. I've actually got these in just little blocks because I didn't want to waste from here to here in stencil material. But yeah, you can always cut it out like that just to save on material. And then I'm just going to lay them down and then just kind of crease where I can cut, where I know those numbers are going to sit fine, and then just trim around it. Okay, so yeah, I just went ahead and cut around it, place my stencils so I know that they're going to fit okay. And I need to peel my stencils off. Make sure it's burnished down pretty well. And I'm going to start top and bottom. And then, to make this easier, I am going to cut this one off from there. And this one off from here. And then this 3 we're going to want in the center also. So that'll make it a little easier to line up. That right there. Oof. That happens, just lay it back down. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and go over these stencils with the white color that we used. And I'm just going to do that with my stencil brush. They say that this is supposed to stop excessive bleeding. I've never done it before, but I figured I'd try it because I really want this clock to look nice since it's going to be hanging in my living room. And I'm just going to clean off my brush with some water so that way I can reuse it again. And I'm going to use the black. Oh, that is pretty crisp, so I guess that little trick worked. All right, I'm going to let that dry down by using my heat gun, of course. All right. So I've got this other stencil, and it's got my last name initials, and I am going to put that on here as well. I'll trim it down a little bit more. And then I've just got the year me and my husband were established. And let's see. That's where I want it. I think that's going to look good right there. I need to do the white. All right, we got that all finished. I think it's turning out really pretty. I'm in love with it. Okay, and if you happen to get any paint, you can just go ahead and touch that up, which I just noticed. All right, and I am going to seal it just to protect all that nice and prettiness. Make sure I don't have any dust on there. And I am just going to use the matte clear enamel from Rust-Oleum. You are more than welcome to use polyacrylic. Can also be used. The only thing with that is you just have to be careful with smearing the paint as those letters and stuff get wet. Well, I don't want to take that chance, so I'm just going to use the spray. And then I am going to let it sit before I put the mechanism in. All right, and that's just going to need to dry. Okay, so putting the mechanism in was pretty easy. You just have to follow the directions given by the manufacturer. But I figured I'd just leave this part in here in case you guys need any guidance or help. You can just kind of follow along. Now when you put that minute hand in there, it's got a rectangular hole, I guess you could say, but you will line that up. That's why you see me kind of moving that hand a little bit, trying to get it to fit down in there without forcing it. And then you're just going to make sure that those hands are parallel to one another. So you may have to kind of bend them a little bit so they're not rubbing. And this clock is now finished. So with the cost of materials, the wood round was $11.99. The clock mechanism cost $13.99. And miscellaneous expenses like my paint and stencil material, it cost around $10.99. And that was a total of $36.97, which was a 70% savings. So let me know in the description box, what do you guys think about that? Ow, I hit my finger.